Now, there is one thing that in your book, one of your chapters, and it is called the Gaia Hypothesis. It's a big word. Big word for your early morning and my late afternoon. You know I'm going to ask you to outline what the Gaia Hypothesis is.
Yes, I am ready for you. So the Gaia Hypothesis was formed in the 70s again. So think about reclaiming was around then too. So the Gaia Hypothesis was coming out, and it was developed by James Lovelock and Lynn Margulis, who was a microbiologist, I think. So basically in their own scientific studies and their own scientific observations, they were beginning to notice that maybe there was not really a separation between the idea of us and the environment. There wasn't a separation that we were the environment. So basically, my whole hypothesis for this book is that we are not separate, right? We are a part. And this was at the scientific level, seeing that be something that they could describe and sort of quantify, that so much similarity. And that because there is this relationship, because there isn't this vast separation, that there are actually ways in which the environment regulates according to us, and that we regulate in response to the environment. But because that's true, because we regulate ourselves in response to the environment, and the environment regulates in response to us. And so it's a relationship that impacts each other. And so this hypothesis says that maybe we should be a little bit more considerate of how that is going and how we can, support each other, because we are having an impact. And I think that this sounds really wonderful and perfect for witchcraft and elemental magic and things like that. Lovelock was not a perfect being. I just want to say that for the record. He also was really in support of nuclear power.
Okay.
and thought that was actually a really great way to regulate with the environment, like that it was an okay source of power.
We learn.
We learn, right? We don't have to agree with everybody, right? And but another thing that I found really fascinating, and I found this, it's in the book, this idea that, so AI is a big thing right now, right?
Yeah.
And will continue to be. He actually talks about AI being something that might be really good. He talks about that actually being something that might be helpful, because if AI understands that if the earth is damaged, it won't exist anymore.
Okay.
Then it might work to its own self-survival.
Yes.
So when I
Let's
saw
on to that side of it.
Right? I mean, but if everything regulates itself, it doesn't want to be destroyed. So it might start coming up with ideas. It might start acting on its own behalf.
I do love when science and magic meet and understand each other. It's sad that it took till the 1970s for them to realize it, but I love it when it comes together.
Absolutely. And I think it's endlessly fascinating, and it's unpredictable. Who knows what's going to happen next? I don't know. Thank goodness. So not in charge.
So do you bring your practice of reclaiming witchcraft in with your work with Gaia? How does it meld together?
Bringing Gaia into reclaiming is probably the way, or maybe it is. Well, it's a reciprocal relationship. So one of the things that's in the principles of unity that unifies the idea of reclaiming and what we believe is there's a line that says, our tradition honors the wild. And that's where honoring the wild came from. But our tradition honors the wild. And it also, the principles of unity, which I don't have memorized, folks, does also talk about the cycles of life. Thank goodness, right? You would think that I've talked about reclaiming enough that I think people might assume that I know it. I do not. But it talks about the cycles of life too. So Gaia is a really natural part of all of it. And I would say that it's not that she's necessarily named, but there. Like she could be seen as an undercurrent of conversation and relationship building. How do we save our planet to save ourselves. Like that is activism, right? And that is or environmental activism. It is that conversation of how do we do that? How do we do that together? How do we do that in a group? How do we do that with our magic? So reclaiming does a lot of work around that. Like how do we, focus our intention, focus our magic to help the earth, but also to help, other activism, directions too. But I would say that at its core, it is about the earth. Like our core class is the elements of magic. And it is not just about the elements and building a relationship with them. It's also about building ritual, building community, building that foundation. And I think that Gaia is definitely like in the cracks and crevices of that without necessarily being named. But I think that at the beginning of reclaiming, definitely she was probably like a big part of that because it was very much like goddess-focused spirituality. And I could see that, that image too of the big breasted earth in the lap sort of goddess.
I think we like to name that energy too, don't we?
Often.
It doesn't actually need it, does it? But we like to put labels on things, don't we?
Gosh, we do. Can we put everything into a little box, a little container where we can understand it? Right?
Yeah. We do. That's what we do.
That's true.